Hello and welcome back to the Ireland Rugby Social. Gavin Andrews, Lindsay Pete with you for the duration of the Women's Six Nations Championship. And we've had the opening day, the big build-up. England-Ireland world champions at Twickenham. Finished 33-12, but on paper that looks like a decent result, Lindsay, a decent performance. But I'm guessing you might need a hug after that.
I do, Gav. I'm raging. I'm frustrated. I'd say I speak for a lot of people, including the players and management team. Like it's a level of frustration because we didn't really fire enough shots and we didn't probably showcase a consistency and enough of the small glimpses we saw, like 2 great tries, but probably a story of being a little bit too little, too late. A kind of vibe with a lot of unforced errors. England, to be honest, world champions, and you can kind of forgive them for having a little bit of a hangover. They've been superstars. I'm sure they've been celebrating since their historic win. They looked a little bit out of sorts, but we just kept giving them the ball back. And like you said, on paper, 33-12 is a really good score considering it was 49-5 last year, and I think it was 80 plus 10, 88-10 maybe the year before. So you're looking at it on paper and huge improvement in against like the world number one, the world champions. But really, if you were watching the game, I've been left frustrated personally.
And there was so much hype and build up to it. So many people there, 77,000 plus at Twickenham. And it could have been so special. Both teams just not quite maybe firing.
No, they weren't. And I suppose really from an Irish point of view, I thought all our stars aligned really. You know, we weren't going in with any sort of pressure. We knew there was probably a likelihood that England going through, both sides, all countries are starting on a new period because they were starting a new World Cup cycle. So you're kind of thinking, right, fresh players in, fresh names. Obviously, we had some injury issues. Avian Riley was missing, Sam Monaghan was missing, Adele McMahon is missing. So you're kind of looking at there. We were short of a full team. However, we welcome back. We welcome back to Erin King. We welcome back Dirty Wall, Clean Maloney on her 50th cap. So we looked like a strong team, no pressure. I thought we'd feed off the energy of the crowd, but we gave the crowd nothing. Neither team gave the crowd anything to feed off. And if there's nothing there to feed off, you can't get the crowd behind you. So it was a pretty dull affair. A damp squib, is that what you say?
Yeah, not great. I mean, it's a bad sign when they're singing Sweet Caroline at some point during the first half. But let's get into the nuts and bolts. Ireland had a moment or two very early on where I felt they maybe could have kicked on. But again, you mentioned it before, unforced errors early.
It didn't bode well, Gavin. You look at at the opening kickoff. You expect Eve Higgins to gather that like it's a newborn baby. The ball drops. That's an uncharacteristic error for Eve, who was probably pretty quiet. Eve Wafer really quiet. Then in steps Brittany Hogan, great Ulster woman, goes on an unbelievable break. We latch her, we drive her through. She's not put to ground. She goes on another break, but then we get turned over. We get an entry into the 22. On percentages, if you really want every 1 in 4, you should be coming away with a score where that's 3 points for a try. England don't let a lot of teams into their 22, because it's dangerous territory. We get turned over. We win a penalty. Then Dana O'Brien overcooks it a bit like Jack Crowley a couple of weeks ago. And again, a missed opportunity for a line-out. We just were so inconsistent, and we always when teams have momentum and they have rhythm, they can do big things. And this Irish team didn't get into their rhythm. They didn't build momentum. And then instead of cutting even England's momentum, they decided they just give the ball back. And you just can't do that with the world number one. We talk about cutting the gap between us and the top 4. So we're sitting in 5th in the world rankings. And if you look at it, it's a good reflection of where teams were at with the World Cup. So the top 4 were all semi-finalists and we're sitting behind in 5th as a quarter-finalist. And we can talk about missed opportunities against France. But to me, today was going to be a big reflection of what we've learned since that quarter-final. And unfortunately, we didn't see anything really.
Do you think tactically they could have adjusted during that first half when they were getting no joy?
Absolutely. I'm sure you sat with Conor after the opening round of the men's Six Nations against France and you're going, right, our kicking game is not on fire here. we're kicking the ball and giving possession to one of the best running teams in the world. And we had no plan B. We had no plan B here today. And I see there's a huge part in the kicking game that we need, because we're not a really big team. Whether we're talking about men's or women's, we're physically not up to some of the standards. We can't change DNA. So it is important for our kicking game to get territory. And it was always going to be territory and possession that's going to make a dent in this fixture with England. But we didn't do that. And I thought we kicked wrong at times. You know, we had a 3v2 with Stacey. We rubber kicked. Like, Jess Breach has bit in. So she's creating that little opening for Vicky Elms-Kinlan to absolutely scorch her on the wing. But we decided to rubber kick. And I thought that was a poor decision. Now, easy for me to say, right, when I'm not in the pressure cauldron of playing in the Allianz. But I just thought we looked a better team when we got our big players on the ball and in carries. Like, we've Clean and Maloney McDonald, we've Brittany Hogan, we've Aoife Wafer, we've Dorothy Wall. Like, the list is endless. And then we're not even going to bring in our backline. Like, I thought Aoife Dalton was brilliant, even her break. But even that epitomised where we were at today. She makes a break and there's only one person in support to her, and that was Anna McCann. She was forced to pass. And probably, if I'm honest, even if she took it into contact, she would have been turned over. Our set piece probably didn't go as well as I expected. I really was hunting the line out, and I did see what we were trying to do. We were trying to go to the back, which is really smart because you cut out a big line of English defenders. But then we're overthrown and we're second to the ball. So I just thought energy-wise and the aggression was lacking a little bit. But as I said, I suppose the frustration comes from knowing the potential of this team and what we've seen in the World Cup and coming into this. And we have spoken about a trajectory. And I just thought we'd see another layer on that today. And that's probably the disappointing part.
Special day for the English front rowers. They scored all the tries in the first half. Kind of played into their hands, didn't they, Ireland?
Yeah, I mean, you can't let Sarah Byrne. Like, Sarah Byrne has really improved her scrummaging. She is an back rower, got into that front row position. She's been there for years for England. And you can't let her within a sniff of that our 5 metre. We let them get into our 22, and like no team, Canada actually can't withhold them. New Zealand can't withhold them. Like, their number one power game is the maul, and we let them get into our 22, run that line out, win clean ball. And to be honest, you're kind of sitting there going, do Ireland go up? But then if you go up and you lose it, you've less bodies on the ground. So then you're just going to be weakened even more. And the one chance that Aoife Wafer did really well and got her arms around Lucy Packer, we were just short and we bit in and we probably made some poor decisions. Now, I did think Lonnie McDonald had unfortunately gone into touch. She'll kill me for saying that because I know her well, Clee's wife. But she did so well. She kept the ball alive. She got it back into Sarah Byrne, who again kept alive, and they scored some easy tries. So they're the disappointing parts, unfortunately. And I don't want to be too hard on the girls. It's always hard in the first round. But I think coming back to what you said, I think it would have been nice to have a different game plan and not being... It seemed like it was always a predetermined kicking game. And sometimes I'm like, surely you've seen space somewhere else. Surely you've seen some mismatches. Can we build phases? Our ruck ball was pretty slow as well, and that really fed into England's defensive. Like, they had great line speed, England, but if you've slow ruck ball, they're going to be able to set up that defensive line all the time. Like, we didn't put them under any pressure to try and see was there any chinks in their armour, you know.
A 21-0 down, it could have been worse. Ellie Kildon inexplicably drops one over the line at the tail end of the first half. You could have been in at 28-0 down, which would have been doomsday stuff almost.
Yeah, and I suppose, like, I'm being hard on our girls, but some of their defensive sets, to be fair, were probably the shining light in the first half. We really covered the wings very well. That's what England want to do. Our scramble defence was good. And if you look at the build-up, Meg Jones, unbelievable strike line. They scored off it, I think, in the final, was it, against Canada in the World Cup? We've seen a similar, but Meg finished it off that time herself, but cut a great line. Emily Lane gets kind of even a slow down on her shorts, then she gives it off to Ellie Kildon. And Vicky Elms-Kinlan, I thought she had a great game, really shining light. Her first start, I think at 15s, and she just did brilliant to even just get the hand of Ellie Kildon. And the gas thing is, you know, you're always told to put two hands on the ball, and that's the reason why, because what should have been a really simple, well-worked try. We rode our luck. But all little snippets that went to put them under pressure, and I think they were lovely moments, you know, that Ireland, no matter how much they might have looked jittery or things weren't going their way, they really did stay in the fight at times. So that was definitely a really big positive for me.
Do you think that message at half-time was about staying in the fight? Because it did turn around in the second half, 12-all in the second half, very different picture.
Very different picture, and it was gas. If you look at the first few minutes of the second half, like I think we put more passes together in that first few minutes than we did in the whole first half. And I'll come back to it. It's not about being hard. The frustration is about knowing what the potential of this team can do and what we've seen, you know. And it's just an opportunity missed. You get very few times where, you know, we could be talking about the South Africans for the men's side. We're talking about England here in the women's. When it's the top team, there's few opportunities where you might catch them on the hop. And I think today was that golden opportunity. And that's the frustration. And I know I speak probably for the players because they look back and it'll be like, that's uncharacteristic. Could we have done better there? And look, if we are back, Gav, at the end of this and we're talking about our first round and it's the end of the tournament and we're finishing after Scotland and we're after finishing third or even maybe second if we've taken a scalp off France or had a much better performance against France, then we're looking at, right, this England fixture was good in the overall scheme of things because we had our learnings and we adapted, and that's okay. But we won't be able to have this conversation until a couple of weeks down the line.
Well, here let's remember that the first 40 minutes of the men's game, the men's tournament, Ireland poked out in France.
Rugby's a simple game. You know, it is a simple game. I know we can sit here and we can say that, but when you do the simple things right and you're building layers then within the game, like you have to get your bread and butter of the game right. You have to keep possession. You have to get your set piece correct. You have to build phases. You have to look after ruck ball. When all those things click, then you can start doing, like there was some nice glimpses of obviously predetermined moves they've done off the line out, but we probably hadn't done enough work to create the space for those moves. So I just thought we probably started to walk, but we ran before we walked, you know, just build up the pace, settle into the game. And I thought that was probably missed. We probably tried to win the game before we even got our hands on the ball, you know. So I think that was the issue there. But definitely a much better second half. 2 great tries. Anna McGann's try was unbelievable. The strength. It's so difficult. She could have easily been, and you'd forgive her if she was put out over the sideline because she was hit hard by Claudia Maloney McDonald. She held her feet, did a bit of a spin basketball move and kept control of the ball and put it down. It was brilliant. And then Erin King grew into the game. Like, it was so good to see her back after a really long-term career-threatening injury. And she grew into the game, got some really lovely turnovers, and then what a great try to finish off. And she still only had 7 caps gone in under her belt going into that game. Like, she's still so green in the 15 sense, but we know exactly what an athlete she is, and obviously a personality to still have the trust to be selected for such a big game. So yeah, look, they're definitely small snippets of just, if we could put them together in a longer period, I think we'd be having a different conversation.
Yeah, she was quite lively in her post-match interview, let a little word slip. We'll excuse her.
I was like, not me.
But she was quite positive. Scott Beeman, quite positive as well. What do you think they're going to be talking about this evening before they start building into another week?
I think the best thing to do now tonight, if I was Scott and his team, is just let the girls have their time, let all the emotion, seep out of them. Obviously celebrate Cliona's 50th. There's a lot of little celebration, first caps for Eilish Cahill. So there's a lot of celebrations need to be there. And I think on the human side, let that happen tonight. Let them have their day off tomorrow. But come Monday, if you want to learn, the best learnings are when you make mistakes, and they can't be missed opportunities. So it has to be probably a really, really honest and probably rough video chat on Monday. I know Erin was very positive, but I think when the emotion settles with her, I think it could be a different thought process or maybe synopsis on Monday, if she's honest. And I think I did feel personally a little bit of frustration, understandably, from Scott, because again, he knows at most what his players can do in that green jersey and what their potential is, and he probably felt there was something left behind. Look, England have great options, they've great depth. But if they're probably honest, I thought Meg Jones was unbelievable, but they were probably a little bit out of sorts as well.
Italy beaten by 40 points to 7 against France. In terms of selection, what do you think Ireland will do this week? Do you go again with the big guns? Do you get a few new faces in there? What happens?
It'll be interesting because I thought there was a couple of players that were probably quiet, but at the same time, we didn't get them ball. We didn't get them into games. So is that a tactical thing the management need to look at to create plays to get players in? So I probably wouldn't be doing much changing really for next week. It's such a short turnaround. I think it's a good opportunity for players to really put to rest or make amends or for themselves, for their confidence. I think it would be maybe for such a young squad and players only coming back from long-term injury. That's the first one out. Like all nerves, all jitters, all anything that was going into that game is gone now. So I think it's really going to be for individuals and collectively a big response next week in Galway, because again, it's the pride for these players who put in the work. You know, we can say here it's none of us putting in the blood, sweat and tears. It's not us bringing, like, building the trust and belief and wanting people to buy into the green wave. Like, it's important. The performances, unfortunately, pressure-wise are bigger. You know, they are bigger because we're building something, and the potential is there to build something great. But it's in the players now, and I know they'll do that in the first international game out west. So I think it can be a very, very special day. I know we probably missed a special day today, but you know, there's just a special day next week. And I really urge people to please get out and support these girls. Today wasn't a great day to showcase, but I have no doubt they're going to bounce back and put on a performance next week. And I do think, Gavin, it's going to be an absolute humdinger. Italy are so unpredictable. They've great players. They're not afraid to move the ball. And when they click as well, they can be very, very dangerous. So I think I'd like to see a lot more ball in hand, a lot more phases, pinning Italy back, but by putting them under pressure, they can be very, very ill-disciplined. And I think that'll be a good way for us to now kick to territory, get the ball off the pitch, build our set piece. They gave away some small tries. They really couldn't live with France's power game and moving the ball very quickly. So if Ireland can kind of build and pick and choose when they're going to do that against Italy, I think we'll be on the right side of the result next week. But all well and good about a result. It needs to be a performance and a result, and definitely a building. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect next week, but we definitely have to see a lot more consistency and a lot more shining lights than we saw today.
Galway's going to be rocking. What a place for a day out. And to bring the rugby to almost a new audience, it's going to be a huge day for Irish rugby.
Yeah, look, the Dexcom Stadium is looking absolutely unbelievable. I think it's really reinvented and reinvigorated, re-energised the supporters of Connacht Rugby. And I know they've done a lot, and they'll do a lot this week to really build the game and get people in. And I think it's special from both sides. I think, you know, Dave Heffernan alluded to it after being out for injury, like the Connacht Tuckers, saying when the Clan stand is the name of the new stand there. And when he came out, he said the roar, the West, and the West will be, it's cliche, but the West will be alive next week if people make the effort. And I know I have a couple of new fans hopefully coming with me, new hopeful fans that I'm bringing with me next week. They're they're current fastballers and hopefully new rugby fans that'll join in the journey and come along to the Aviva and to the to Kingspan, which is Affidea now. I know I went through a revamp. So yeah, I think definitely it's going to be it's a great small stadium, and every bit of noise and every bit of energy will be felt by the players. And I really think the crowd are going to be so important next week, and we really need to get behind the girls. I know me and you will be there, getting the party started, getting that crowd going.
We'll be very well behaved. Before that, we're in camp on Monday.
Yes, we
with
are.
a player we don't
excited.
know yet, but that's going to be exciting to see what the mood's like and see how they're all feeling.
Yeah, and look, definitely excited about that. And as I said, it's hard. I know a couple of the girls, and I've met them through whether it's league or playing with them, and it is hard sitting here, you know, being the one dissecting a game, because I've been that player being dissected and getting poor results. But that's where the growth, you know, we talk about growth and being a player. And as I said, it's about the potential and knowing how unbelievable these athletes are. So, yeah, big things to come. big things to come. Hopefully we'll motivate them. We'll be in there giving them the pep talks.
No better woman to motivate them. Yeah, can't wait. Should be a huge week next week. Huge tournament coming up. But yeah, Monday, listen out. Ireland Rugby Social will be back from inside the Ireland camp. From Lindsay, Pete, and from me, thanks for listening.